Hello, guys. In today's video, we'll be reacting to how the gambling epidemic is destroying the society by Moon. Anyway, let's get into it.
The major news outlets weren't the first to call the election for Donald Trump. It wasn't
Oh,
even a polling group or a political organization. Instead, it was Polymarket that beat everyone to the punch,
polymarket.
confirming the
A
results hours before it hit
no, not a. People used to talk about this so much times in my school.
the news. It's not the only reason they've been in the
I hated it.
headlines. In the wake of
I
the
never
election, the
gambled. I
FBI
just
raided the
hear
home of
it
Polymarket
24/7.
CEO Shane Copland and confiscated his phone, although he wasn't actually arrested. So who got the
DraftKings or
spooks so
whatever.
spooked? Polymarket is a relatively new company that offers people a different way to gamble. Users can buy shares on the outcomes of real-world events.
I have nothing
with the odds
against them,
depending
by
on
the way.
what people are willing
But
to
nothing
pay for
against
higher
DraftKings.
results.
Nothing.
It's in
Nothing.
practice a completely deregulated system using USDT. And Polymarket's about page is keen to tell you that there is no house and they
Is that
don't
like
actually take a
crypto?
cut of the wages
Yeah,
or
I'm
have
assuming
any
it's
stake
crypto.
in the outcome. They've also said that the raid was nothing more than political punishment from the outgoing administration. But the whole site does seem to exist in a legal grey area. Polymarket's detractors have accused it of being just another shady crypto experiment designed to take people's money, while the company itself and their supporters see it as a less exploitative improvement on gambling and the future of an industry that's always going to exist. But before we can ask these
Crazy.
questions and dive deeper into Polymarket, we need to take a step back and consider the context of all of this happening in. These days, gambling is everywhere and it's had a massive effect on culture, most
By everywhere, it is literally everywhere. Like actually, like you won't, you can't basically go on Twitch without seeing an ad for gambling. Like actually, like it's insane. Like any big streamer that runs ads, like, sorry, any streamer that just runs ads, uh, you'll probably see it. Like
notably in the world of
anyway.
sports. Until recently, though, there were lots of barriers for entry to betting on sports. To do it legally, you generally needed to go into an actual brick and mortar store. There are ID checks and other barriers to entry, so compared to today, it did take a lot more time to start wagering.
Yep.
Gambling was present on TV as well, but there were still restrictions that kept gambling participation rates pretty steady over time. But today, it's a completely different story. And now people are gambling on every single thing in society.
That's for
From
sure.
which movies hit in the box office, to which presidents come into power, all the way to which wars are won. In 2018, the US Supreme Court reversed a federal ban on sports betting, leaving it up to the states to decide, and most have chosen to legalize it, which also coincided with the rise of mobile gambling apps. And since 2018, there's also been a massive rise in the amount of people with gambling addiction problems. Both surveys and charities running gambling addiction hotlines have confirmed it. A research paper by Stephen Shapiro from the University of South Carolina showed that sports and betting have an almost symbiotic relationship. A rise in popularity of one
I'm gonna go back. Wait, sorry, my bad.
of South Carolina
My
showed
bad.
that sports and
I
betting
spaced
have an
out.
almost symbiotic relationship.
Sports and betting. Yeah, that's for sure. They literally, in my dude, as I said in my school, all they do is bet. Literally. You're not supposed to have phones apparently out. Nah, they don't fucking care. I need a bet with you, man.
A rise in popularity of one leads to
Yep.
more attention for the other and vice versa. Over
Yep.
time, the two industries have become
Symbiotic
completely
relationship.
enmeshed. We've seen similar results in the UK, where regulation has been lax for years. Now nearly every football team in the UK has a betting company logo on their jersey. Gambling
That's
ads now
just
almost
insane.
run non-stop during sports programming
I
in
didn't
the
even know that.
US. American football and its frequent pauses have even let them sneak in between individual plays. And this video isn't to say that gambling as a whole is a terrible thing, but it's the positive
Loot
association with gambling
boxes.
that could be slightly concerning. And we're
Bro.
not just talking
Okay, loot boxes is such a how do I put this? It's so fun, but at the same time, it's such a big problem because I know what it truly is. But if a kid that's doesn't know any better just does so much on like trying to get something, like bro, in Roblox, Pet Simulator. Mom, mom, I need your credit card. I need to bet on this. I need to bet on this egg, please. Oh my, dude, oh my, dude, it was so bad.
about
Probably
sports.
just
We're
sets them
talking
up
about
for
kid
sports
gamblers and
gambling,
the
and
promotion
then
of gambling
yep,
on anything and everything for
yep,
teens. In a 2014 report, the UK
teens and even
Gambling Commission
kids.
noted
Yeah,
a massive rise in problems with gambling among 11 to 17-year-olds. The amount of kids who would qualify as having problems with gambling more than doubled from 0.7% to 1.5%, and that's
yep.
only in the space of a single year. These are
sadly.
children who've been having problems with hard gambling, but a different kind of softer gambling has been promoted to children for years through predatory practices that have become common in video games. As games have evolved, companies realized they could make far more money through a so-called freemium model. The basic gameplay is usually free, with added content, cosmetics, or even in-game advantages costing extra. The
Is
real
that
money comes in
Fortnite?
from game purchases
Sorry,
and
my bad.
microtransactions.
My
Over
bad.
time, they found out that the best way to make the most money with the system was to create an in-game casino system. They started as a way for
Yep.
players with less time on their hands to access items they could otherwise grind for. However, this wasn't enough for some companies, so they turned to the one business proficient at ensuring its customers' return: casinos. And things started to spiral out of control when companies
Loot
saw how much players spent
boxes.
on loot boxes. Games like Call of Duty would start introducing loot boxes to reward
Oh my
players with
gosh, I forgot
cosmetic
this was even a
items.
thing because I
Nothing that
haven't
would
played
ever enhance the
Call of
gameplay
Duty
or
in
even
so
give you
long.
any money back. Players love changing the appearance of their main character to suit themselves better and add their own identity to the character. Finding new items became a fun little gimmick that came with leveling up. Loot boxes triggered feelings similar to what one might experience while gambling. The anticipation that comes with the mystery of what's in the box. The excitement that followed finding an item that you've been looking for a while.
Hell
All
yeah.
the disappointment that settles in when you realize you weren't so lucky this time around.
Well, that
Loot
wasn't
boxes
CSGO.
used to
I
be
thought that was
discoverable
CSGO.
in-game, or granted to you
Overwatch,
for free upon
dude.
login. These days, multiple game
But the only thing with Overwatch is like the game's so bad to the point people actually want loot boxes back because the monetization's incredibly bad. Like, come on now, bro.
games require spending real money to get them. And we're talking about major gaming companies where you've already paid to access the game itself. And not only does this incentivize especially children to
I
spend
can't
their
imagine that, dude. Spending $70. Oh my gosh, dude. Spending $70 on a game and then just spending even more to bet in that game for players. No, dude.
ridiculous amounts of money on digital
can't even-
items,
I
but
can't.
they're also paying far more because of the gambling mechanics.
Because that's
all
what my
without
brother
their
did.
parents' knowledge.
Yeah.
You see, loot boxes operate on a system of rarity. They're designed to be as similar to slot machines as possible. And while it makes major gaming publishers tons of money, it also prepares them for a lifetime of gambling. And all of this has fueled a new renaissance for gambling, which brings
That's
us
for sure.
straight back to polymarket. If you're still fumbling around with a bulky, outdated wallet, let me
Ad
introduce you
time.
to Exter, the creators of the world's smartest wallets. These
Actually,
aren't your ordinary
that kinda
wallets.
looks
They're
cool, I ain't
slim,
gonna lie.
sleek, and packed with features that'll make your life so much easier. You see, Exter wallets are super slim, holding over 12 cards in cash while staying half the size of traditional wallets.
Yeah.
Their signature trigger mechanism lets you access your cards with just the push of a button. It's simple, fast, and so satisfying. And if you're worried about security, Exter has you covered with the RFID blocking, so that your data stays safe from wireless skimming and theft. Plus, they're also
Okay.
made with sustainable materials like vegan Italian leather and space-grade aluminum. And one of their game changers is the Finder card. This solar-powered trap
Finder
ensures
card.
you never lose your wallet again. 2 hours of sunlight gives you 3 months of charge. And with the two-way ringing
Okay. Okay, that's pretty cool. 2 hours of sunlight equals 3 months of charge. But like, how do I put this? I don't really go outside, right? And the only time I go outside is to go to the gym. And so like you know, I can't really buy this. I don't think this is for me. Yeah. Yeah, can't they just make it chargeable like inside? Like just charge from the inside light, like you know what I mean? That'd be pretty cool. That'd be pretty cool. But no, I need that.
feature, you can find your wallet or even your phone in seconds. Plus, you'll get separation alerts and access to a worldwide lost and found network, so that you're always connected to your essentials. Right now, Exeter is running the biggest sale of the year, up to
55% off, though?
with the code MOON from December 9th to December 25th.
Oh shoot.
So if you're looking for a perfect gift or an upgrade for yourself, this is your chance. Just use the link in the description
Yeah, that's
below,
actually kind of-
partner.exeter/moon, and use the code MOON to take advantage.
Depending on how
of
much
the
that is, that's
amazing
low-key
deals.
still,
Trust me, once you
like,
try
high-
Exeter,
I actually
you'll
know
never wanna
high-key.
go back to your old wallets.
Damn.
They've been one of the leading horses in a race to monetize a new way of gambling, a peer-to-peer marketplace for betting on the outcomes of real-world events. The site mixes crypto, gambling, and the stock market all into one. In normal gambling, people place wagers on an outcome. In roulette, for example, if you place a bet on black and the ball lands on one of the black numbers, then you win. Polymarket and other
So
sites
that's how
like
that
it
game
are a
works.
little different. Instead, it's like you can buy shares for each outcome. So you could either buy shares that the ball will land on black or that it won't land on black. The amount you can win is decided by what other people are willing to pay. If most users think there's a 55% chance it will land on black, then the share will cost 55 cents and pay out $1 if you're right. This system means that you can either just bet on the outcome or wait for the result by buying shares of one of the outcomes. Or you can buy and sell shares before the outcome even happens, either making a profit or a loss based on how the consensus has changed. It all means that no third party is taking a cut, but other problems come up instead, as we'll find out. If you're going to believe the founder Shane Copland's social media posts, Polymarket began in a bathroom on a laptop sitting on top of a laundry
Dude,
desk.
that's crazy. And a broken freaking broken finger in part of the door. Nah.
But it wouldn't stay that way for long. Launched in 2020, the site was functional months before the election in November. By offering a way to bet on the outcome, it picked up steam, and by around October, Polymarket had already attracted $4 million from crypto and venture capitalist investors. After the election died down though, the site fell into stagnation for years. Then in 2022, the CFTC banned them from letting American citizens use the platform and fined the site $1.4 million. But strangely, this didn't seem to make much of a difference at all. Whether the ban actually worked is up in the air, and it's hard to tell whether Polymarket's compliance extended beyond lip service. But it wasn't until the 2024 election cycle that Polymarket's growth picked up again. This time,
No
though, it
way.
was going to get a whole lot more popular than anyone expected. As reported by Fortune, the trading volume on Polymarket stayed at around 40
40
to 60
million?
million dollars for the first
Damn.
5 months of 2024.
From
Then in June,
going
it
to a
almost doubled to
broken door
110 million.
like
The site was
hall
picking
to
up speed.
this?
A
Damn.
month later, this tripled again,
Just like
climbing
that.
past 500 million by September. Finally, with the
Okay.
election around the corner, it rose by another 500% to 2.5 billion. Since then, trading volumes have dropped, but not nearly to the levels they were at before the election. The business model and the site itself seem to at least have some staying power, and recent news might be an
I
indication
didn't
that
know it
some
was that
people are
big.
very worried about its growth. While the
Okay.
media and opinion polls had Trump and Kamala in a dead heat, the consensus on Polymarket was much more in Trump's favor. In the market for who would win on the 1st of November, a few days before the election, Trump was sitting at nearly 63%, with Harris on just under 37%. When Trump won,
You
Polymarket
hear about
also
them
declared
tariffs,
victory.
by the way?
I know you guys
I
got a lot
don't
of flack
like
for that,
them.
and I just appreciate you guys.
We like
We'll see. We'll see how it goes,
Hopefully,
though.
you guys feel the same sense of victory that we do.
Now, you could give a lot of reasons as to why. A Trump administration could be more
I
likely to
think
let them operate
I
without
hope
much
he does
regulation,
well,
and it might let them
and
have US-based users again.
hope
And
he
during the
helps
election, people were slandering
everyone.
Polymarket as being outrageously right-wing, all due to their predictions that Trump would actually win the election, unlike mainstream polling that suggested the race was close. Their user base's bias to being pro-Trump was
Hopefully
also
he helps
proven
them
correct
more,
as well,
but
adding
that
weight
might
to
be
their
a pipe
claims of
dream.
representing the true voice of the people. But just a few days later though, the FBI suddenly raided Polymarket's offices in New York, confiscating
Damn.
Copland's phone and laptop. While other similar exchanges
FBI
have been
open
allowed
up
to
types.
operate and let users place bets on US politics, Polymarket had not gotten the go-ahead. Meanwhile, it's almost certain that lots of US citizens have been using the platform, bypassing the region lock with VPN. Whether it's Polymarket's responsibility to investigate and stop this though is a legal question. So while they were obviously breaking their deal, they also have tons of plausible deniability that could possibly see them through a lawsuit if nothing else comes up.
That's
But of
for sure.
course, Polymarket were quick to claim that it was all a case of political punishment by the outgoing Democrats. The main objection that Polymarket's
No way,
detractors have
bro.
raised is based on the fact that it's unregulated. They say it opens the doors to insider trading, market manipulation, and other predatory practices. Just a few days before the election, Fortune.com published a piece accusing Polymarket of being a full of wash trading, a scam where users buy and sell lots of the same shares over and over again to make it look like a hot commodity. The crypto firms that came up with this analysis state up to a third of the activity surrounding the presidential market, the largest on the site, was wash trading. Other smaller markets on the site are even more vulnerable to manipulation. Their low trading volumes make it far easier for people to artificially move the markets with relatively small amounts of money. It seems like these kinds of things are almost expected in unregulated online financial markets. But perhaps the biggest reason behind the US's new crackdown on Polymarket could be that it's something they don't control or make a profit from. With no third party taking a cut or managing the odds, Polymarket gives people a crystal clear view of what the consensus is on certain events. It offers a perspective of the world that they can't control and is therefore dangerous. Governments also rarely have a problem with gambling if they're the ones profiting from it. The loss rates
Yeah, that's for
offer
sure.
a massive slice of the country.
Especially how do I put this without getting banned? Uh, especially back in the day, woman used to do some sort of act that would uh have people want to burn them. Yeah, let's say that. And uh people do that now, but online with only uh uh not that spinny thing. You know what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay. Um, but with the other one, back in the day they didn't make money off of it, and now they do. So yeah, very very kind
country's
of
entire
corrupt
gambling industry is insanely profitable
a
for them.
bit.
It's like printing money, but without the inflation because they're taking
Makes
it out
sense
of
though.
people's pockets. If Polymarket's model of peer to peer gambling takes off for other things, it could severely dent both these profits and the ones they tax from regular casinos and bookmakers. It's not something they want to happen. While it might be unlikely, with so much money on the line, why would they risk anything? At the end of the day, Polymarkets isn't the problem, and gambling itself in moderation isn't a terrible thing. The issue is that
Yeah, but what is moderation? You know what I mean? Like people keep pushing and pushing and pushing the line until I mean what is
market is
moderation?
just a symptom
It's
of a
kind of
culture that's
subjective
let
though.
gambling go way too far. And the media is only concerned because it's a tiny part of the industry that the establishment isn't taking a cut from. All the other rigged forms of gambling where you're pretty much guaranteed to lose money are absolutely fine in their eyes, and regulation has been almost willingly useless. In 2021, the UK government took measures like adding a minimum time between spins of 2.5 seconds. It's a hard rule that's definitely going to slow down the problem and prevent even more people from falling into addiction. That
That's
is
good
unless
at
people
least.
figure out that they can just open up two separate websites.
Never
Plus,
mind.
it really doesn't take that much time to sink an entire paycheck into online slots,
Yep.
even with those minor
You can
restrictions.
go broke fast. So fast. I think it's the easiest way to lose your money, actually.
Meanwhile, you've got streamers on
Quite
Kick
literally.
streaming slots to tens of thousands of people, and you can pretty
Sadly.
safely assume that a large part of the audience are children. The big streamers often aren't using their own money. Gambling sites give them massive wallets to burn live on stream, just to draw in potential users. They have big floats, and most of the slot games work by buying a certain amount of spins and then winning money back. So each time these guys play, there's all these flashy graphics of massive wins showing up on screen. And while this
Yep.
isn't really lying, it's definitely meant to be as misleading.
And the dopamine hit, which makes you want to keep going and keep going and keep going. It's
As
crazy.
possible, as it creates the connection between win massive amounts of money and the slot website they're using. Even as you see the laws of probability work themselves out and the balances slowly go down, it doesn't matter. You can tell how integral these social media sites are for gambling companies' marketing plan. Otherwise, they wouldn't be funding an entire streaming platform just for this.
That's
But
for
one of the
sure.
worst things about all of this is that addicts can never really escape an easy way to indulge their addiction. Unless you entirely stop using a smartphone, it's always going to be there right in your pocket, or even on Times Square. It's like a smoker trying to quit smoking while keeping a
I
pack of
hate that it's
cigarettes in their
everywhere.
pocket. And that's not to
Exactly. This is for every single thing. Um, just in life, yeah. Whether it be good or bad, if it's close to you, the temptation to want to do it is so much higher. So much higher. For example, if you have like homework next to you or something, and you have like a just time on your hands, and you don't have your phone next to you too, because obviously phone addiction now. Um, you're gonna think about, should I do this? I guess so. Same thing with food. Same thing with um, how do I put this correctly? This is a bad thing. Pee addiction. Not actual piss. I'm talking about something else. I just can't say it. With that, if you have your phone next to you or you're constantly by your computer, you're left alone. You know, if you keep having thoughts, then you can start to wonder about that. That's why, and obviously, same with this, as this guy's explaining. That's why you need to turn to God. You need or have something to occupy your time with. I would say turn to God because God's your savior. But have something to take your time with and like just fill that void because if you don't, then this addiction might. So
to say there shouldn't ever be gambling adverts, not at
Yeah.
all, but it's the way it's been adopted by everyone, by everything, where every single event in society is made to just be another part of gambling, which could be especially dangerous for those constantly losing when their entire addiction is centered around the dopamine rush that comes with a winning bet. And when you run out of money to keep it going, it's like being dropped in the icy water of reality. It all comes rushing on and you realize just how much money you lost and what the real life consequences are going to be.
Yep. People have lost so much stuff from this. Like, I know one of my friends literally, like, their parents lost their house, like, quite literally, because of gambling.
Which is one
So,
of the things that makes the mainstream promotion of this so
yeah.
uniquely gripping, is that everybody's trying to avoid this feeling, especially in a society where people are becoming poorer and poorer, uneven to even safely survive, constantly being shown this option of winning, where you can gamble on everything, which movies hit in the box office, which president gets elected, hoodwinking millions and millions of people trying to avoid the reality of losing, trying to avoid the reality of their own situation in life. And while in moderation it can be fun and fine, the problem comes when every single thing is monetized in this way. When you're a kid, it's loot boxes, and as you
Yep.
grow up, this sort of thing just becomes normal. But it is
And it's
important.
really bad because I'm not gonna give my opinion on what they should do about this, but it's really bad when it's a kid because obviously their mind's still growing up. Like so if they do this and they get addicted to it, then if they don't change from these types of games soon, then they could easily switch over to a casino and then be like, oh, let me spend a lot here, like it's just
Important to remember though
really
that there
bad.
is always still hope for recovery. We're built to deal
That's
with
for sure.
adversity and
There's
keep
still
going
hope.
through tough conditions and not resist temptation. But with how much this stuff is pushed into people's faces, it's almost a sign of a society that's completely financially unstable, where materialism and money is promoted against everything else. Lots of addicts look back on their first bet and know that if they had lost instead of won, that whole habit would have never been formed and they would have escaped.
That's for sure.
Ironically, the dangers of gambling are always created by being
That's why, literally, okay, I don't know as I've never played these types of games, but I heard um on like online games on your phone, like for gambling websites, um I heard that the first bet you do is extremely good, like for some of the websites, and then once you get really, really hooked and addicted, then they start to deceive you, and then they're like, first the first bet you that you see is really bad. The second one that you see is still pretty bad, but less bad as that one. And you're like, should I take this? Should I not? And then like, you know, take it anyway, and then you lose. And it just goes up
lucky in the beginning.
flames.
People who've revealed it to their families and their friends are often surprised at how willing they are to help, but the absolute worst
Yep.
move is to keep it
As with any addiction, you think that's the problem with a lot of addiction. They isolate you, and then to the point that you're so addicted that you don't think you deserve help when your family would love to help you so much, like so much.
to yourself and bear the burden of being
Because
alone.
they
It isn't
they
a
love
problem
you,
that
like
people
hello.
should be ashamed
Well,
about, especially when it's
normal
promoted in
families,
almost
obviously.
everything, even just subtly without you ever realizing. But as we've seen, it's so ingrained into our culture today that children are already getting addicted before they have a bank account. And
Yep.
polymarket and its competitors are therefore just the tip of a giant iceberg in a culture addicted to gambling. Regulating it is probably a good idea, but it's a comparatively tiny problem compared to the awful state of modern gambling itself.
Yeah,
And the
actually,
root
especially because when you win in these types of games, now I've never gambled again, so I don't know. But if when you win in these types of games, apparently you feel the same dopamine high as you dopamine like as you would get from winning in a fight. Apparently, so you know I'm not
core
that
is of why
surprised that
people are
there's
turning
this
to this
big
so
of an
much more than they
addiction,
have in
but
the
it's just
past.
really
When
bad.
money, materialism, and economic insecurity is a mounting problem in society, then it's no surprise that this stuff is so legitimized in almost every facet of society.
Yep.
But tackling that problem rocks the boat for everyone. It would dent the tax revenue and the lobbyist money that comes streaming out of the gambling industry.
That's why it's really hard to change this now, because of how big it is. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. What do you guys think about what they should do about this? I don't even know. It's so complicated, kind of, because he's right about the economy part. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Tell me what you think about it in the comments. By the way, this video will be in the link of this video if you want to see it on your own. Anyways, I'll see you guys. Have an amazing day and goodbye.